Is Boo Carter college football's next Travis Hunter? It's not a dumb question, but I would advise caution in that regard. That and so much more to Wednesday, Locked On Vols.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome into it, your Wednesday morning edition of Locked On Vols. I'm your host, Cain. Thank you so much for being here, making Locked On Vols a part of your morning routine, your first listen, your first watch. Each and every single day, we're a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every single day. Couldn't do it without you everydayers. Thank you so much. I love it when you see me in public and you say, hey, I'm an everydayer. Seriously, that is freaking awesome. So can't thank you guys enough for that. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at TurboTax. Ready for a stress-free taxes and the most money back guaranteed? Head on over to TurboTax.com today and get matched with your expert. Again, that is TurboTax at TurboTax.com. Got a lot to get into here today. We'll work in reverse order. Alberto Ozuna, Tennessee transfer first baseman, has yet to play. He's ineligible. He's lost a couple of court cases. His next step is where he sent a letter to the NCAA on Monday and pretty much said, please grant me my eligibility. You told me to do this. I did this, yet you still deny my eligibility. It's your fault, and here's why. A really, really good letter that we'll kind of unpack in segment 3 and discuss it, give a little background information on Alberto Ozuna. In segment 2, Ryan Schumpert of Rocky Top Insider are going to join the show to talk Tennessee basketball heading on to the SEC Tournament. But right now, is Boo Carter the next college football's Travis Hunter? Again, it's not a dumb question because we were at practice Monday morning, and I physically saw Boo Carter wearing an orange defensive jersey, putting on a white little penny is what you called him, what we called him back when I played, back in my day, putting on a white penny, and he went over there and ran some routes out of the slot. So it's not just hearsay. It's not just, well, we'll see what happens. Physically, we've seen Boo Carter practice some offense with the University of Tennessee. Now, the question remains, how much of an impact will he make? How many snaps will he actually run routes for Tennessee this fall? I don't know. I seriously don't know that right now. Asked Tim Banks Monday whenever he met with the media, and I mean, he was excited for Boo, but clearly the defensive backs coach, he made it pretty clear what Boo Carter's priority is going to be.
Yeah, I think it's been fine. You know, Boo understands he's a defensive back for us. You know, the goal every year is to be the last man standing, you know, so we're trying to do anything we can to give everybody an opportunity to continue to grow. So his role on offense will be, you know, dictated from coach. And, you know, at this point, you know, he seems to be handling it, you know, really well.
Boo understands that he's a defensive back for us, okay? So that's the number one takeaway. Number two takeaway, coach will dictate what his role is on offense, that being Coach Heupel. Number three takeaway, and it's a short clip, is he seems to be adapting and adjusting pretty well in that regard. Now, this is day 2, okay? There are 13 more practice days, including the orange and white game. Fall camp's around the corner. What's it look like in week 5 when Boo Carter's coming off a bad defensive game or whatever, and it's time for him to go over and run some routes with the wide receivers, and Tim Banks is like, whoa, no. Yeah, you need to stay over here. I don't know. We'll see how this all works out. But Boo Carter is going to have a little bit of an impact, it appears, for Tennessee on the offensive side of the football. So will he be Travis Hunter-esque? Let's slow the roll a little bit now, okay? I think that's kind of just where we go. Kids, too, in the recruiting process. Oh, they like me as an athlete. They like me a wide receiver. They like me a DB. They want that I'm a take. They want to just get me on campus and figure it out. They said that I'll have the opportunity to do this and do this and do this. You know, Travis Hunter, they're pitching me the Travis Hunter role. I mean, that's all sounds great, okay? But in reality, when it comes down to it, it's just like, you know, a baseball player a baseball player that commits to a school, and then the football team wants you. And once that football team wants you, it's over. What's up, Trayvon Flowers? Going to play third base for Tennessee once upon a time, but he was a 4-year starter at safety for the Volunteers, right? And there's been so many different situations like that in years past, and there's been some that have worked. Obviously, Connor Holloway, you know, Jameis Winston in recent years at the big time football level, and baseball level. But nonetheless, I think we all kind of get caught up in the, oh my goodness, we saw Travis Hunter do this. Watch out, we got a guy like that as well. And I'm not doubting Boo's ability at all. Again, like Deshaun Bishop, I watched not as much as Deshaun Bishop, but I covered several of Boo Carter's games at the high school level here in East Tennessee, more towards Chattanooga and Hamilton County and all that. I recognize that Cleveland area, but I had a couple of his games, and I know what he can do with the football in his hands. Now, sometimes you just know a guy that's got it, right? Recognizing that high school talent in East Tennessee is not equivalent to the SEC. But if he's breaking tackles, he's outrunning guys with great angles, he is seeking out contact, he's doing it in the backfield, he's catching passes out of the backfield, he's a Wildcat quarterback. I mean, he's doing it all while also, catching passes and playing safety or cornerback at the high school level. Now, we know what Boo's done here. He's the star player for Tennessee defense. He was a part of the All-SEC freshman team a year ago, certainly had his moments, and it was a great start to his career. But I do think you start kind of putting some more things on the plate. I think anything like 20 snaps a game on offense, heck no. I do not think that's going to happen. Could he eventually work into a 10-snap an offense game when he's in the football game, given the football? We'll see. We'll see. Could he be a gadget, deep in the red zone? Could he be a guy in the backfield on third downs? Could he be a weapon, a situational player? I think that's more like it. But there's no doubts about it. Boo Carter's got some athletic ability, and he was running routes of practice on Monday. A couple of routes. The one that I saw, Jacoby Thomas locked him up. Another one, he caught an underneath route that was uncontested. But it appears to be a good route runner, but still, you're going to need to refine that mechanism and refine that as you go on and try to really contribute at this level. So I'm excited to see what this looks like in terms of the evolution. I mean, look at Tennessee's wide receivers right now, and on the outside, you got Chris Brazel on one side, you've got Mike Matthews on the other side, you got Braylon Staley in the slot. Amari Jefferson, who's not full contact right now, hopefully after spring break, he will be full contact. He's been repping in the slot as well. Then you have two freshmen in Travis Smith and Redarius Jackson on the outside. And that's pretty much it. You got another guy in Joakim Dotson that's going to be a summer enrollee, but he's more of a slot player. The numbers aren't quite there right now. Experience-wise, this is not a very experienced group. Chris Brazel's got a lot of experience. Mike Matthews got some experience. Braylon Staley got in there towards the end of the season. But this is not a very good, very experienced wide receiver room. Amari Jefferson has never played a collegiate snap. So there's a lot to prove at this wide receiver room. So why not have a little flair of Boo Carter in there? Why not put Boo Carter out there in situational down and distance and let him cook a little bit? I was happy. I was pumped to see him running some routes on Monday. He also ran some routes on Friday when the media wasn't out there. How will that role continue to evolve throughout spring practice and on into fall camp? We will see. Will we see him do anything offensively? I bet you not. But will we see him do anything offensively in the orange and white game? We'll see. But I'm all for it. I'm pumped. But I will say the Travis Smith notion, or the Travis Hunter notion, that was a Heisman Trophy winner. Let's slow the roll a little bit. Not that I don't think Boo Carter has that ability, but let's set some realistic expectations here. I think it's going to be a small role, and you kind of grow from there. Travis Hunter didn't come off the field. He didn't come off the field ever for Colorado. I don't think that's necessarily going to be Boo Carter's role, but still, I'm excited to see what that looks like. Tennessee basketball, what do the Vols absolutely need to accomplish, in the SEC tournament? What is a passing grade for the Vols in the SEC tournament with a 1 seed still very much on the line? That's coming up next. We'll talk with Ryan Schumpert, a Rocky Top Insider, when Locked On Vols returns. This is the message from sponsor Intuit TurboTax. Taxes was waiting and wondering and worrying if you were going to get any money back, and now the waiting and wondering, it turned into some worrying and a whole lot more. Now, Taxes is matching with TurboTax expert who can do your taxes as soon as today. An expert who gives your taxes their individual, undivided attention as they work on your return while getting real-time updates on their progress so you can focus on your day. An expert who will find you every deduction possible and file every form, every investment, everything with 100% accuracy. All you can get, the most money back guaranteed. No waiting, no wondering, no worrying. This is Taxes. Get an expert now with TurboTax. Only available with TurboTax Live full service real-time updates only on iOS mobile app. See guarantee details at turbotax.com/guarantees. That is turbotax.com/guarantees. Ryan Schumpert joining the show here from Rocky Top Insider and Tennessee basketball on to postseason play. Before we look at the SEC tournament and what needs to happen for Tennessee to keep status quo or potentially grab a number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. I do want you to get your thoughts on the all-SEC teams came out. You had, for the coaches, Zakai first team, Chaz second team, Jemai all defensive team, and Zakai defensive player of the year. For the AP, you flipped Chaz and Zakai. Chaz was first team, and Zakai was second team. I believe Chaz was also the newcomer of the year for the. I mean, there's so many different things. Any misses? Any bad misses on the teams for Tennessee and or the SEC in general?
I don't think any bad misses. I probably would have. I liked what the coaches went with Zakai on the first team, Chaz on the second team, as opposed to the AP that had Chaz first team, Zakai second team. But no, I didn't think any huge misses. I think you probably could have made a case for Felix Okpara on the all-defensive team too, but realistically, I don't think 3 Tennessee players were going to make the five-player team. So it did feel like if someone was going to get left out, he was probably the right one. And no, the newcomer of the year, I mean, I think it's, and not that this stuff matters a ton, but this was the first year of the newcomer of the year. So Chaz is the inaugural winner. It's separate from freshman of the year. Texas's Trey Johnson, I think, rightfully won that. But no, if you're Tennessee, you kind of probably wish that newcomer of the year started last year because obviously Dalton Connect won player of the year in the conference would have won that. But Tennessee's going to have to build their team basically through the portal, or at least very heavily through the portal this offseason. Essentially having the top transfer in the SEC the last 2 years should be a pretty good selling point for Rick Barnes and his staff.
Yeah, I mean, the way college athletics in general, but like college basketball specifically, because again, it's a smaller roster. I mean, you got 13 guys on a roster or whatever, and you've got 5 on the court at one time. Coaches don't want to coach freshmen, right? It's like that line from Draft Day when he's like, "I hate rookie quarterbacks. I don't want to coach rookie quarterbacks." But I mean, Tennessee, yeah, great point. Dalton Connect last year, Chaz Lanier this year, and that's what gives me reason to believe. I mean, Tennessee fans love when Tennessee wins, but they also love looking ahead and trying to find the next coach. Like the season isn't still going on, right? I mean, the way Rick Barnes has loved assembling a new roster the last 3 years gives me belief that. I mean, he's not slowing down anytime soon. I mean, we'll see what happens, but obviously, I think he enjoys this phase of it. I don't think he likes like Toby Awaka and Jonas Adu leaving and all that drama, but I think he loves assembling a roster full of veterans.
I think he does too. And that's the thing. Not that Tennessee has the most NIL money or anything like that, but I think Tennessee has good NIL support, and the guys on this roster, the vast majority of them that are making a lot of money or part of this year's payroll are going to be gone. So they're going to have a lot of money to work with, a lot of NIL support to work with in the portal, and there's reasons to think they can go get big names and a lot of good players. And like always, it's, I think that's the thing with basketball, baseball, and also football. Like that's very much it's a talent acquisition game, and good players are good players. Basketball is so much about fit, and that's where I think you saw Tennessee's transfer class last year had 4 players. It wasn't all that highly touted nationally, but it was really good, and 3 of those players played massive roles for Tennessee. And Tennessee's looks like they're going to be a 2 seed in the NCAA tournament. And I think you could say the same thing where Arkansas had a bunch of big names. Things didn't really work out. I think Vanderbilt, Louisville, a couple teams transfer classes that were good, but maybe didn't get a ton of hype, but they fit together really well. And I think that's kind of some of the fun with basketball is not just finding the players, but the puzzle piece and getting players that fit one another and fit your specific system.
ESPN's Joe Lunardi on, I guess it was Tuesday, said final number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament will go to the SEC survivor in the SEC tournament. So let me ask you, in years past, just simply didn't matter what happened on Sunday. Didn't help Tennessee a couple years ago, didn't crush Tennessee, last year. But what happens on Sunday in the SEC tournament doesn't matter. Can that actually change this year because the SEC is so good? If it's Auburn or if it's Florida or if it's Tennessee or if it's Alabama. I mean, Auburn's already locked into a number 1 seed, but for the Floridas, the Alabamas, and the Tennessees, if you win this whole thing on Sunday, that should matter, right?
Yeah, I think it's more feasible for it to matter this year because it's SEC teams competing amongst SEC teams, where like you go back to 2 years ago when Tennessee won in Tampa and Duke stayed on the 2 line, Tennessee stayed on the 3 line, when just by resume and by what had happened that weekend, it seemed like Tennessee should jump up. Well, that's kind of harder because then you got to change a lot of stuff in the bracket if you're going to flip an ACC team with an SEC team, the way a lot of that works. And they're not going to rewrite the bracket on Sunday, a couple hours before the selection show. SEC wise, and it's not just for sure thing, but you probably don't have to change a whole lot if you're alternating SEC teams in and out with one another. So I think there is a chance that it matters more this year. The way Lenardi phrased it, yeah, I'm a little skeptical of that. To me, that would make more sense with Tennessee and Alabama because I think their resumes are so similar and they're so neck and neck. But Florida, to me, feels like they're a little bit ahead. I don't know. It doesn't quite seem to make sense to me that it's just going to be as simple as whichever one of those three teams makes it the furthest is going to get that final 1 seed.
Tennessee plays the second game into the double bye, of course, and that's big, especially in a year like this. Into the double bye, we'll play the second game on Friday, so it'll be Friday afternoon. We'll take on the winner of Texas A&M and or Texas or Vanderbilt. You played Vanderbilt this year. You played Texas A&M this year. You played Texas this year, actually. You played all three. Yeah, you were there at Texas. They have played Texas. What matchup favors Tennessee the best on Friday?
I think Texas, largely because I think they're the worst team of the three. I think that probably goes a long way. And I think it's almost Vanderbilt A&M, and A&M's definitely, I think, the better team of the two, but I think that one's a lot more curious. I think Vanderbilt is a tough matchup for Tennessee. I think you saw that in both games. Tennessee loses in Nashville, and Vanderbilt gave Tennessee everything they wanted and more in the game in Knoxville. So I think that's just from a pure matchup standpoint. Vanderbilt is a worse matchup for Tennessee than Texas A&M is. But when you start looking at the fact at that point, Vanderbilt would have already played 2 games in 2 days. And you look at the physicality that A&M would bring to Tennessee and how hard that would maybe make the rest of the tournament, I think probably Vanderbilt would still be better for Tennessee to play. So Texas is by far, I think, the team you'd want to see if you're Tennessee, and then followed by Vanderbilt and A&M being pretty close to one another, but probably rather see Vanderbilt than the Aggies.
Out the door, Ryan, your pick to click. Tennessee in the month of March. This player has to score this many points, has to be this great on defense, has to do this much on the boards. Who's your player to watch for Tennessee to make this run? And I understand low-hanging fruit. You could say Chaz because he scores the most points, or Jemai on the defensive end, but interesting question, I guess.
Yeah, I'll go two different sides to it. One, I'll just say Igor Milicic's rebounding. I think the offense is going to be inconsistent with Igor. We're far enough into this thing. I just think that's how that's going to be. But Tennessee has struggled rebounding the ball the last 2 weeks. Igor is at times this year been a lead on the glass. I want to see him just rebound the basketball and be a force there. And whatever else happens on the offensive end, you'll live with it. You hope you get a good game from him in a big spot, kind of like Tennessee got from Olivier Camwa a couple years ago against Duke. But really, I just want to see Igor rebound the basketball. And then on the offensive side, you could, again, like you said, go in a number of different directions, but I'll say Jordan Gainey.
Yes, I wanted you to say him. Yeah.
The way he's been playing the last few weeks, I just think he gives, when he plays well, I think that offensive backcourt of Gainey, Zeigler, and Lanier gives Tennessee a little bit extra juice and a little bit of extra kick. And I think the way Gainey can, obviously Chaz is super important just because he can fill it up and do what he did in the second half on Saturday against South Carolina, but the way Gainey can get downhill and score at the rim and get to the free throw line, I think makes him such an important part of this Tennessee team. So I'll say Gainey continuing to play well offensively, giving Tennessee consistent double-digit scoring efforts and maybe a couple games where he's getting up near the 20-point range.
Ryan Schumpert, Rocky Top Insider. Thanks as always, man. Looking to optimize your nutrition this year, Factor makes eating well easy with chef-prepared, dietitian-approved meals that are fresh, never frozen, and ready to heat and eat in just 2 minutes. It's not bad whatsoever. With 40 options across 8 dietary preferences every single week, you can customize your meals to fit your lifestyle, whether it's Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, or Keto. Plus, Factor even offers wholesome smoothies, breakfasts, and grab-and-go snacks to keep you fueled all day long. I love Factor because it takes the stress out of meal planning, okay? I recently tried their Protein Plus meals, and they were packed with flavor, kept me full throughout the day. The convenience, it truly is unbeatable. No prep, no mess, just good food in a few minutes. Eat smart with Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege50 off. That is promo code LockedOnCollege50 off to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. That's promo code LockedOnCollege50 off at factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege50 off to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. You can't beat it. Factor Meals. Hey guys, I want to end this show by revisiting something that's transpired Monday late afternoon, early evening. If you're unfamiliar with what's going on right now with Alberto Ozuna, he is a transfer that came to Tennessee in the mid-year prior to the start of the baseball season, 2025 baseball season. He's got a very unusual story. He spent 2 years at Walter State as a junior college player in 2019 and 2020, all right? And he, one of those years was canceled due to COVID. From 20 to 21, from 2022, 23, and 24, he was at North Carolina with the Tar Heels, where he was a part, hitting in the middle of the order of a College World Series team a year ago. So he was out of Division I eligibility, and this is a conversation for another day, but we live in a time, okay, where right, wrong, and different. If you think Alberto Ozuna at the end of this segment doesn't deserve eligibility, that is fine. I certainly understand your reasoning for that. But hear this part right now. We live in a time where you can leave and transfer anywhere you want with no penalty. You can get paid. The only thing missing is a CBA, and that would be for the benefit of coaches and for the administrators. But we live in that time. We live in that world. However, the NCAA can tell a student athlete such as Alberto Ozuna that he is ineligible to play Division I, but he can play Division II or Division III. Now, in what world does that make sense? What are we doing? What are we talking about? You mean to tell me I can play D2, which I played D2. I chose D2. That was the motto when I played D2, and I remember seeing that on the banners in the playoffs when they come and put it all over your stadium. I'm like, I chose D2. No, if I could go D1, I'd fucking choose D1. Thought that was funny. But you mean to tell me I can play Division II, but I can't? I'm ineligible to play Division I? Makes no sense. The reasoning for that is there's different boards of governors for each level of the NCAA. Makes no sense. Okay, so there's that. So Alberto Ozuna, knowing that he was out of Division I eligibility, he was undrafted last year in the draft, trying to keep the dream alive and trying to continue to, be in draft position and or to sign as an undrafted free agent next summer. He transferred to Tampa University, a Division II program that just won the NCAA Division II championship. Okay, so good program. He spent fall there. He was ready to roll. And then Diego Pavia sued the NCAA, took him to court, and after a couple of tries, failed his TRO. That was denied, but was granted preliminary injunction. And those players like him that started their careers in junior college got another year of eligibility. So Alberto's seeing that like, oh, okay. He gets some advice, some counsel. He calls the NCAA, which I'll mention here in a moment, and he decides to transfer, knowing that nothing was guaranteed. It's still a little bit of a risk. He decided to transfer to the University of Tennessee. And I remember when this happened, talking with people close to the program, told me flat out, pointedly, we would not have taken him away from Tampa if we knew that it wasn't going to work out, if we knew that he wasn't going to be able to play. Okay, very confident. Well, transferred late January, sent in a waiver February the 3rd. 2 days before the season opener on Valentine's Day, February the 14th, no case manager had been assigned to Alberto Ozuna's case. Okay, so Alberto's like, and he got some legal action. He got lawyer help. Shout out Chad Hatmaker, great at what he does here in Knoxville. Flat out said enough's enough. Filed an official complaint in federal court against the NCAA, requesting a temporary restraining order that would have made him immediately ineligible, eligible, and or preliminary injunction. They came back, they denied his TRO, temporary restraining order, just like they did with Diego Pavia initially, but they set an expedited hearing for February 26th to resolve his preliminary injunction. You go there. It was a good day for Alberto Ozuna and his lawyer and the team that felt pretty confident, but it was still risk, right? Still risk. The judge just did not feel comfortable granting preliminary injunction at this stage in the case, so that was denied. So now what do you do? Chad Hatmaker, Alberto's lawyer, sent out a statement saying Alberto's very disappointed with the decision. We're deciding what our next step will be. The case is still ongoing, mind you. Okay, it's not over. It's just the reason they try to get a TRO, temporary restraining order, and or preliminary injunction is because so he can play now. And think about this now. His clock is ticking. He's not a spring chicken, okay? He's got name, image, and likeness opportunities here at Tennessee that would be forfeited if he's not eligible. He's in a real pickle. And Grant, I want to stress here that It was never a guarantee that he was going to be eligible, but again, this is the same case as Diego Pavia. And even the NCAA lawyer in the preliminary injunction hearing, the judge asked the NCAA lawyer, how does this case differ from that of Diego Pavia? And the NCAA lawyer flat out said, it doesn't. They're the same, but that judge got it wrong. Okay. There is one difference I do want to point out. Technically, it's Diego Pavia's academic calendar is still ongoing. He's technically still a senior, whereas Alberto Ozuna and the kid from Georgia and the kid from Wisconsin that are going through the same thing, their academic calendars ended last July when the fiscal year flipped over or whatever. But still, there's reason that he should be eligible. So one of those steps that Alberto Ozuna and his team made was, I'm going to send a public record letter to the NCAA, and I'm gonna request once again for you to accept my transfer waiver. And it's your fault that I'm not eligible, and here's why. Long letter. I'm not gonna read it all, but I'm gonna point out some of the big parts of this letter. He starts it off by saying, I have questions. Or no, he says, quote, I have many unanswered questions, and I need your help. After the blanket waiver and conversations with you, I uprooted my life and moved to another city with the expectation that I could continue playing the game that I love. It was an amazing opportunity to have the chance to come play for Coach Vitello and the defending national champs, but I also came here for NIL potential that didn't exist at Tampa, and to be able to help my family and I financially. He goes into a detail about how his dad's had surgery here recently, and he's not been the same, and he's trying to use some of this NIL to kind of help erase some of the financial burden for his family. I've got an article over at VolQuest.com. It's free if you want to go check it out. That kind of breaks everything down specifically at the timeline. He also said, quote, when I called several times at the beginning of January and asked about my Division I eligibility, I told you my entire playing history. 2 years at Walter State with 1 canceled due to COVID, 3 years at UNC, and I was currently at Tampa on the team, but no games against outside competition, meaning he hadn't played in a game yet because they hadn't had a season yet. You told me to file a waiver. This is it right here. You told me to file a waiver. Of course, you knew that no student athlete can file a waiver individually. A Division I institution must file the waiver. You knew for me to file a waiver, I had to enter the transfer portal, commit to a D1 school, and leave Tampa. After I did all of that, you instructed... sorry, let me start this over. Trying to add emphasis, and I'm stumbling over my words. And after I did all of that, as you instructed me to do, you have opposed my request for a waiver. Whew. He goes on to say... the NCAA makes over $1 billion annually off the backs of student athletes. It claims that it is there to protect and serve the student athletes and to act in a manner that is fair and inclusive for us. How is denying me the opportunity to play my final season fair and inclusive? I mean, he goes off the top rope, and deservedly so. I really, really like this letter. I think he's got some great points. I think his lawyer, Chad Hatmaker, did an awesome job advising him on this. We will see if the NCAA responds. Typically, the NCAA doesn't respond, but I bet you the NCAA will respond to this. And you're seeing a lot of movement on social media, a lot of former players coming out there, a lot of people in the baseball world asking what's going on right here. Again, it's two different conversations. You can believe that he shouldn't be allowed to play another year of eligibility because he's 25 years old. That's a separate conversation. But why on earth is it okay for Diego Pavia and football to be granted this, but not Alberto Ozuna and Goldstein at Georgia and some others in baseball? That makes no sense. Why does it make sense that you can play Division II baseball, you're eligible, but not Division I baseball? That makes no sense. I encourage you to go check it out. Great stuff there. Again, I kind of broke it all down at VolQuest.com, and I've been tracking this whole thing from the get-go. It's many, many moving parts. You can check it all out over there at VolQuest.com. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. We'll see what the next step is for Alberto Ozuna back at Tennessee football spring practice later this morning. What's going to be my biggest takeaway? But I do want to leave you with this. Do you think Boo Carter can make a massive impact on offense this year for the University of Tennessee? Would love to hear from you at @_Cain and at Locked On Vols. Tell your friends about this show. It's free and available wherever you get your podcast. Please subscribe to the show on YouTube and download us wherever you get your podcast. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, everybody. This is Locked On Vols.